you're not going to hurt me. That you're not going to torment me. And the Bible says in another place that before this even happened, the guy started talking like this because Jesus said, come out of him. And then he starts talking to him. Well, it was a matter of time before he's going to come out, because Jesus' word won't return to him void. But Jesus allows this conversation to go back and forth for a moment. He said, for he said unto him, verse 8, come out of the man, thou unclean spirit. And he asked him, what is thy name? And he answered, saying, my name is Legion, for we are many. Legions were thousands of Roman soldiers. It was it varied between, I think, 2,000 and 6,000, something like that, Roman soldiers was a legion. And he said, we're called Legion because there's many of us in here. Many demons possessing this man. And he besought him much that he would not send them away out of the country. Which I found that interesting, because we could do a whole thing on this, trying to figure things out. But for whatever reason, they did. I don't know if they were talking about that particular region of the world, or if they were talking about this dimension into the other dimension, into hell itself. I know they were worried about that. But were they also saying we don't want to leave this area? And there's something strange there with the demonic things, and I don't like talking about all this stuff because it freaks people out. And it shouldn't, because there's power in the name of the Lord. Greater is He that's in us than he that's in the world. And He gives us power over all the power of the enemy. But it's, for instance, when Michael came to Daniel in the book of Daniel, he said, I would have been here, but I was fighting with the Prince of Persia. And I saw an advertisement for some movie not too long ago, or some video game and stuff, about the Prince of Persia. I'm thinking, I wonder if you guys know who you're talking about there. Because we're not talking, when you say Prince of Persia in the Old Testament times, that was another name for a satanic force, a satanic being. And so anyway, but it seemed like it was over that region, and the Bible talks about principalities and powers, like they're over certain areas, and maybe these guys were in this particular area and this is where they were assigned and they didn't want to leave. I don't know whether they were talking about that or the other, but he's talking, saying, don't send us out of this country. Now there were 9 of the mountains, a great herd of swine feeding, which tells you it's probably a Gentile area, because Jews don't raise pigs. They're an unclean animal to them. So there were a lot of Roman citizens, maybe not citizens, but subjects in that part of the world at that time. And if they were Jews, they were disobedient Jews because they were raising swine. But anyway, there was a great herd of swine feeding, and all the devils besought him, saying, send us into the swine that we may enter into them. And we're not going to be able to get through all of this tonight, but think about this for a minute. I don't know why they wanted to do that. I don't know if they were trying to fool Jesus. We'll go into the swine, we'll kill the swine, then we'll get away. Maybe they were saying because they were afraid that he was going to cast them out into the deep, it says in one place. And have you come to torment us before the time? In other words, they were worried about the end time judgment where they're going to be cast. The Bible says the place prepared for the devil and his angels, right? They know that's where they're going. But it's not until the judgment time. And have you come to torment us before then? Have you come to send us to that eternal torment before the time? So maybe they were trying to bargain with him, saying, now listen, what would be a fitting punishment if you just put us in those pigs over there, allowed us to go enter those pigs. Instead of humans, we'll just live in those pigs. I don't know what their thinking was. I know what Jesus is thinking. I think I know what Jesus' thinking was. He was trying to demonstrate to the disciples something they would never forget. This guy cutting himself is not an accident. That's who you're fighting. He is a killer. And don't ever forget what you're about to see. This is what he does. And so when he allows them to go into the pigs, he knows what's going to happen. But he wants the disciples to see what's going to happen. That's what I believe. I believe he wanted them to see this and never forget this. They besought him, saying, send us into the swine that we may enter into them. And forthwith Jesus gave them leave. You can go. And the unclean spirits went out and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the sea. They were about 2,000. 2,000 pigs. Now that tells you how many demons are in Legion, that it filled at least 2,000 pigs. And it says they ran violently down a steep place into the sea and were choked in the sea. You know, remember I told you that there was a mountainous area right there that came down to the sea. Some believe that they actually even ran off a cliff into the sea. But 2,000 of them, just all of a sudden, you're tending your 2,000 pigs, and all of a sudden they just take off running. But they don't just run anywhere. They run violently down this steep place and jump into the sea and drown themselves, kill themselves. So imagine, I mean, this is not a fairy tale. This really happened. And these guys they're over here, Jesus is over here. They don't know what happened over here. All they know is their pigs just all of a sudden ran down the hill and choked themselves, and there's dead pigs floating in the Sea of Galilee, 2,000 of them. Again, it's not a picture that the disciples are going to forget. And they that fed the swine fled and told it in the city and in the country, and they went out to see what was done. Our pigs just ran into the sea and drowned themselves. So these people come out of town and they're looking at the Sea of Galilee, and I don't think anybody had ever seen anything like it. You got 2,000 pigs floating in the sea, dead. What happened? You know? And then they came, and I'm going to stop after this verse. And they come to Jesus and see him that was possessed with the devil and had the legion sitting and clothed. See, notice Mark didn't mention that he didn't have his clothes on. Matthew, I think Matthew and Luke both mentioned he was naked. Mark never said that. But then he says when he's in his right mind, he said he was clothed, which means that he wasn't clothed before. And he was in his right mind, and they were afraid. Now, all these people knew him because they had tried many times to bind him with chains, and he kept breaking loose. They knew who he was, and now he's sitting with Jesus, and he's in his complete right mind. This man that had been torturing people that traveled that way. And he's clothed, and he's in his right mind. God has power to do anything with anybody in any situation. But and then verse 16 says, and they that saw it told them how it befell him that was possessed with the devil, and also concerning the swine. Those that were near said, this guy was possessed. He told the demons they could go into those pigs, and when they did, that's what caused them to run down. All they knew was the pigs had killed themselves. And so verse 17 says, and they began to pray him to depart out of their coasts. You would think they'd want him there. But you're often afraid of things you don't understand. And all they knew was, this is something strange and weird, and we want you out of here, you know. But I'm thankful. That gives you hope, doesn't it, today? Because I've seen people that were in all kinds of bondages and mental states that the Lord can change their minds and change their hearts and change their souls and change their spirits. And I've seen people on the effects of alcohol and drugs, and their minds are completely burned out. But God has the power to restore. God has the power to even heal that. Are there any questions or comments before we close out, and we'll pick up there next time?